Okay, now that we have the bearings, the seals, and the shifting mechanism with shift drum installed, we can put all the goodies in the cases, the transmission, the crankshaft, all the other little pieces that go in here. There's not really too many pieces that go between the case halves. The easiest way not to forget them is to do a dry run and make sure you got everything laid out that goes in all the places. And that way you're not going to forget to put something in there and have to take the whole engine apart later. So first thing is putting the transmission in. Yeah, I like to put everything together as an assembly. Some of these transmissions, like this Honda, have loose washers, which you can see I'm holding with my finger on the bottom there. It gets a little fumbly when you're putting it in, so it might take a couple tries. I like to keep the shift forks in place also. There are 3 different shift forks on this transmission, so you need to, again, pay attention to your manual so you know which one goes where. And the reason I left the shift drum in neutral, if you have everything assembled correctly, when you put it in, you should be able to hold one shaft steady and turn the other. And if you can't, then there's a gear in backwards, or there's a washer out of place or something. And then this test will be repeated again when the cases go together. As soon as you get the cases all bolted together, you need to try it again. And then you need to shift it through all the gears, which you'll see later, to make sure that all the gears work. Because the last thing you want to do is put the whole top end on it, find out the transmission does it. Okay, next we're putting in the crankshaft. This Honda engine's pretty easy. The crank drops right in on both sides. Some bikes aren't. You might have to throw the crank in the freezer for half an hour, and put the cases on a hot plate or something carefully to heat the bearings up, or use a heat gun. Whatever you do for heat though, be careful not to overheat the seals. If you have to heat the cases, I always recommend putting a lot of grease on the seals. That way, if you see the grease melting and dripping off the seals, you can be pretty sure the next thing to melt and drip will be the seals. So you want to keep it below that point. Make sure you get the crank in the right way. There's flywheel end, ignition end, and the power takeoff end. The way I'm doing this, the clutch side, the drive side's all on the bottom, so we're going to put the spline drive down. And next, you don't want to forget your locating pins for your case halves. I always put those in right away just to make sure I don't forget them. If you do forget them, take it back apart. Don't think you're going to run it without them. These keep the case halves lined up correctly for all the transmission shafts and the crankshaft, and if you don't run them, the cases will actually walk around under power, so eventually you're going to get a gasket leak, and you're probably going to lose some bearings too. Okay, then I lay the gasket in place. Make sure everything lines up, looks good. On these Hondas, the oil pump is between the case halves, so you got to put that in now. I put a lot of grease on these because they have to be held in place when you put this case half over the other one. Now we're ready to put the second case half on. Got the crankshaft transmission in place. Again, make sure the transmission turns in neutral. Always keep double checking that, make sure nothing's slipped out of place. On this Honda, it has a paper gasket. assemble it dry. Don't use any sealer on it. It doesn't need it. If you put sealer on it, chances are it's going to slip and blow out, so it doesn't need sealing. Got the oil pump held in with a lot of grease so it can't fall out when I put it together. Just be careful. Should slip together easily. Might have to tap it a little bit. Okay, now you just got to put the case bolts together. Okay, now that you've got the cases all torqued down, bolted together, you just want to make sure that everything turns freely. So, crank turns freely, and transmission's still in neutral like we had it set, so you know at least that part's right. Should run it through all the gears. I just grabbed this. Some bikes are different than others the way the shift drum's set up, so just grab this and you gotta turn the shafts and that's first gear. Okay, we're back to neutral. Second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. No farther, so it's good. It's got all the gears and neutrals. We know it'll work when we get it in the bike.